When a single voice joins another, and then many others, it sounds strong. It sounds united. It sounds like a revolution.
I came up with the idea, Sounds Like a Revolution, in 2003 when millions of people were marching in the streets in opposition to the invasion of Iraq. And a little-known band by the name of the Dixie Chicks came out in opposition, just saying something very benign, like, you know, we're afraid to be from the same state as President Bush. And I thought, if the largest grossing female act of all time could receive such a huge backlash, what hope does any independent artist have in this time to rage against the machine? I mean, I was inspired by all of the artists that are profiled in this film in some way, and that's why I felt in the film it was really important to show how each one of them was politicized on a very personal level early on in their life somehow, or some event changed their perspective. With Fat Mike, it was the 2000 election when he realized if he said something in Florida, he could have politicized all of his fan base and maybe changed the course of history. You know, whether or not that could happen, we don't know. But for him, that was a profound moment. For Michael Franti, it was being born biracial and not being able to reconcile, not feeling accepted. And for Justin, it was, you know, growing up poor in a large family. So each one of these things, these forms of inequality or these feelings of injustice in the world are the things that mobilize us and make us, you know, get out there and do things. And so I was inspired to show their story as a microcosm for us all during these times of growing concern about our world, of trepidation about where we can go. And so hopefully that comes through.
A lot of this movie was filmed in 2003 in the run-up to the American election. Now, were you expecting George Bush to lose and that would be the end of it? That would be, you know, the film would be wrapped up? Is that, you know, partially why this was 7 years instead of 1 year?
Yeah, when we started this film in 2003, we thought that it was going to be about all of these musicians banding together to fight this great evil force in the world, this George W. Bush, and that they were going to succeed and the world was going to become a better place. And well, we all know that didn't happen, and I think we all kind of grew up as a result of it. There was a lot of sadness about, you know, putting so much effort into something, but what we realized was that in 2004, everybody was fighting against something, but they weren't really fighting for something. And by the time Obama arrived, you saw great hope, optimism, something to fight for, and so that's hopefully what the film reflects. Well, in what I've seen over the course of making this film the last 7 years was a growing militarization of every demonstration that we've attended. In 2004, when we were at the Republican National Convention in New York City, there were 200,000 people on the streets, and there was an intense police presence. They brought in 30,000 extra policemen from across the boroughs, but they were all dressed in plain clothing. There was very little violence, no outbreaks, you know, very few arrests. And then by the time you go to 2008, we see a major shift. You know, all of the police were all of them were in riot gear. They were wearing face masks to insulate themselves from the tear gas that seemed imminent. It was a very antagonistic, you know, relationship. There were snipers on the roof. I was actually quite in fear for our safety and was not sure how things were going to pan out. And so, you know, this is the change that we're seeing in our world, and it does beg the question, you know, do we really stand up for civil liberties in Canada and the United States when the actions of our government say otherwise? Well, in one scene in the film where we capture the shutdown between Rage Against the Machine and the Capitol Hill police and, you know, the riot police there, we actually had to source several different, you know, images from fans that were on the ground. The craziness about that situation was that everybody had a cell phone. There's so many people with cameras, and, you know, everywhere you looked, people were connecting and texting and twittering and sending this message out. So this is the new paradigm in which we live, one in which, you know, citizen journalists, fans can actually connect not only with their idols, you know, in a situation like that, but then can spread the word to, you know, around the world.
One of the subject of this movie is Justin Sane from Anti-Flag.
Yeah.
You've been nice enough to let me tag along with you for a day with him in the upcoming G20. What do we have in store for Justin when he's here?
Well, we've got a few surprises for Justin. Of course, we're going to pick him up at the airport, and then hopefully we're going to whisk him right down to the protests, and we'll see what happens there. Labor is organizing. There's a lot of environmental groups and social justice groups that will be connecting. So we're hoping that he's going to have an opportunity to see what it's like in Canada, and. We're also we have a little surprise for him with Amy Goodman's in town. So we're really hoping to catch up with her, and because he's actually she's his idol, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, we're really excited about the screening. We're hoping that all the demonstrators can also make it out to the screening in the evening, but who's to say what's going to happen?